I am Chad. That is Gregson. First time, your historic moment. I'm pointing in the right direction. First try.
Yeah, me
Fantastic.
too. I actually remembered which side to do this time.
Exactly. Opposite of what you think it is. At any rate,
That's right.
Greg, how you doing, buddy?
I am super good. I have a delicious glass of wine tonight. I have a car that's loud and all is well. So life is good, man. Life is good. How about you?
Um, you know, I have a car that's broken and I have a car that's slightly less broken. So
Nice.
it could be better.
Small victories.
Now we play the waiting game and things like that.
Yes.
So, but no, all
What's
things
up,
considered,
Isaiah?
could be all things considered. There we go. It could be worse.
That's right.
Chat, what's
Yeah.
going
This is
on?
our
Welcome to the
this is
stream.
our second stream today, actually. Come to think of
Yes,
it, Hanson was live earlier with his car du jour. I don't know if there's a phrase for car of the week in French, but car du jour, which is the Lexus RCF track edition, the Fuji Speedway track edition, which is pretty awesome because it's got carbon fiber hood, carbon fiber roof, big rear wing, huge V8, very cool car. So if you missed that one, go check out earlier today on our Facebook page and you can see it.
yeah, absolutely. uh, Charlie, what's going on, my buddy? Isaiah, two broken cars. I can relate. Steve is jumping the gun. We'll jump into that in a second. And
Yep, we're going right
Elias
into
is
it.
not a big fan of three cylinders. Okie
No,
dokie. But
definitely not.
to
Good segue.
to Steve's point, and to also Steve Veldecamp, praise Dale and raise hell, V8 power baby. That's right. Today's first topic is V8s. Are they the best?
Brother.
V8s, are they the best engine platform or just best engines of all time ever currently past, future, or past, present, and, well, kind of sort of future. But at any rate, Greg, I maintain that
Yes.
the V8 is the most versatile, is the most capable, and it's just the best way to go. It's the best engine. Your thoughts?
No. Good chat.
And we'll see you next time, guys.
So, yep, yeah, great stream later. No, but this is kind of a debate that we all kind of have as car people, right? What's the best engine? And the V8 for the better part of like 5 or 6 decades has been the workhorse engine, right? You want big power, you want big grunt, you want lots of torque. Up until maybe 2010, V8s were it. You want something done, you get a V8. But I maintain that that's not entirely true anymore, nor has it been true for a while now. V8s are great. I personally like V8s. However, I think that there are better engines out there. For example, and I'll start low and go high. Um, you know, uh, Flat fours, very cool. Flat sixes, very cool. You can find in Subarus and Porsches. Turbocharged 5 cylinders, not so much around too much anymore, but I'm a huge Volvo guy. I really like Volvos. They had a great turbocharged 5 cylinder in the late 90s and early 2000s. Audi still uses a Turbo 5 in their RS3 and Audi TT RS. So they're still in application somewhere. There's no such thing as a 7 cylinder, obviously. You got inline sixes, which are great. You got V10s, you got V12s. I mean, literally everything else is very good now and has been for at least 10 to 20 years. So, I mean, V8's good. I think there are better engines out there, specifically V10s and V12s. I mean, you cannot beat V10s and V12s for pure sound. End of story. There is absolutely no argument there. V8s do sound good. They don't sound like V10s and V12s. Those are just the chef's kiss, creme de la creme of the engine sounding world. Go.
Well,
I'm going to sip my wine, my victory right here.
so again, we come back to another edition of why Greg is wrong. And we're going to go point by point. First of all, V8s are incredibly versatile. You don't see V12 trucks, but you see V8 trucks, but you also see turbocharged V8 supercars. You see, just ask, Koenigsegg, Ferrari, McLaren. I will give you that their V10s do have drama, but that being said, a flat plane screaming V8 has its drama as well. Again, V8s go from everything from a Ford Raptor, Ford Mustang, muscle cars, to Ferraris. They do it all. And let me just put it to you this way. Straight sixes haven't been relevant in top tier motorsport in quite a long time. Four cylinders, yeah, a little bit, but the last really great one was the 919 V4, which I think Jeremy mentioned.
Someone said it. Yep, someone said it.
But I mean, here's the thing: four cylinder, it's just half a V8. Any way you slice it, vertically, horizontally, half a V8. V10s, V12s, okay, that's great and all, but I still maintain that with the right exhaust and the right tuning, the V8 R8 Audi sounds better than the V10 because the V10 is just sort of there. The V8 has character. It has, you can differentiate different V8s where most V10s, if they're overhead cam, sound pretty similar. Obviously, the Viper V10 sounds different, but that's effectively a V8 with 2 extra cylinders. And look at the world of motorsports, right? The last best era of Formula One was V8s, and everybody wants them back. Why? They sound great. V8 is obviously NASCAR. V8 is obviously V8 supercars in Europe. V8s are everywhere in sports car racing, even if you do have your flat sixes, your turbocharged V6s in Acura's case. You do have a couple V10s in the Lambos and Audis, but like the V8 does everything, and no matter what you ask of it, it'll do it. And if we look at this objectively, you're not putting a Lamborghini. You can't really make a couple modifications and put a Lamborghini V10 into a pickup truck, but you can make a couple modifications and take, say, a Coyote V8 that revs to the moon and put it in an F-150 and have a workhorse truck. Basically the engine is the same. Like the Coyote can become the Voodoo, or it can be on a pickup truck engine, or you can supercharge it and just. You cannot argue with the versatility. If you need one engine to do everything, it's the V8. Greg, you're silent. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Let me just say that again.
And now let me mute him.
You couldn't hear me because I was muted like a moron. What's the old saying? Jack of all trades, master of none. That's the V8. It's versatile. But it's not the creme de la creme for everything. I mean, you meant a great example is what you just said. Formula One. Mm-hmm. Everyone's clamoring for V8 Formula One cars, but we all can agree that the V12, V10 era in Formula One were the best eras of Formula One ever. There's legitimately no questioning that, I believe.
But I will. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I bet you a V8 has won more than any other type of platform.
Probably, sure.
With the possible exception being like the V6, but even so, because
maybe like the turbo hybrid sixes or whatever. But at any rate, if you're gonna go for a Formula One sound, you're not going to the 8-cylinder era. You're going to the V10s. You're going to the V12s every time. And I don't disagree with you. There are really good sounding V8 cars. The Voodoo, like you said, in the GT350, wonderful sounding V8 engine. A nasty cammed LS. I mean, sounds fantastic. But you put that up next to like an Aventador with a frequency intelligence exhaust next to it. And it's just so look here. Put a GT350 next to DDE's SVJ.
That's an imprecise. They're not the same car. What you put is a Koenigsegg next to the SVJ, and that
But the
Koenigsegg,
Koenigsegg's still going to sound muted because it's turboed. So
it's
you're
you
to
still
me,
can
NA
get noise.
V8s sound better than turbo V8s
Let me ask you a
because
question.
you're already
Subaru
muting
fanboys,
sound.
where you at? You tell me turbocharged cars can't be loud, especially if you
Oh
put the
no,
same level of exhaust that DDE has on their SVJ.
there's a difference between loud and good sounding because a Civic can be loud and it can sound like a big bag of crap. So there's a difference between loud and good, and that SVJ is both because the
Right,
SVJ sounds
because it
nasty.
has a full headers all the way back to exhaust tip exhaust. If you put that same
Sure.
care and let's just say, I don't want to say you straight pipe, but the equivalent of straight piping a
Yeah,
Koenigsegg
it's
sound
close to.
insane. Now I know this is kind of
They
going
do.
back on last week's argument, but the combination of that screaming V8 with turbocharging with that, it sounds, I mean, obvious, like V12 flat plane V12 sounds incredible, but the V8, and I'm going to give you that it sounds better, but not by the margin you're saying it is. So you can get 98% of the way there with a V8, just like you could get 98% of the way there in a luxury car that doesn't need to make sound or anything with a V8. The V8 is just so insanely versatile that it can do everything, and its wheelhouse, arguably in Europe, a flat plane Ferrari or McLaren, even though McLaren doesn't really naturally aspirate, but like those engines, and then you have the muscle car engines from over here. But before you make your next point, I'm going to go and just touch on a few things from chat here.
Yes, go for it.
Luciano can't even hear you, but agrees with you. So clearly he's drunk.
That was my stupid muting problem.
Charlie just says twin turbo V10. Luciano goes again V10. Thoughts? Let's see here. Steve Gao asks thoughts on VW and Audi decide to make a VR8 engine. That would be crazy, but
That'd
arguably
be cool.
never going to happen. Just because the
Yeah, agreed.
cost of development and the EVs are on the rise. You're not really going to see too many new internal combustion engines anytime soon. Isaiah just says my Civic. And Alan is a Honda boy. You just triggered him. Way to go, Greg. Honda people are people too.
Sorry, Alan.
Alan makes a great point. The LS platform. I mean, come on. It does. I mean, here's a perfect
you're not
example.
wrong. I mean, there's LS swap the world. I mean, that's a thing. But
Yeah.
again, like personally, I don't know about you guys in chat or Chad, you, but if I'm buying a car, I want something that's gonna have like a purpose. And if I'm buying a car to be like a purebred sports car with like cash as no option, or I don't have infinite cash, but I'm gonna go with a V10 or V12. I'm not gonna go out and just buy a V8. Unless I can buy a Koenigsegg, then it's a different story. But that's like I don't even know if that's the thing because there's also Pagani, and I think they run V12 still. So I think the Pagani is also a much more beautiful car than the Koenigsegg. Koenigsegg, beautiful car, don't get me wrong. However, Pagani, I think, is a better design. So I don't know. I think that if it's my money, I would own a V8 as part of the fleet, sure, but I would probably go with something like an LS because it's easy to modify. It can do a lot of different things. The swaps are easy, things like that. So I might get um, the last ever front engined Corvette or a Mustang GT350 or something like that. Some unique 8-cylinder engine. But if I'm going to buying other stuff, like I'm going to get a Subaru GC8 and I'm going to put a EJ20 an EJ207 in there, or EJ205 closed deck, 4-cylinder engine, make a bunch of power. I'm going to get a Volvo 5-cylinder, make a bunch of power. I'm going to get an inline 6, there's just so many other engine choices that are cool and interesting that like are just the V8's cool, but it's like, okay, well, LS swap the world. Well, what else can we do? Is there something else we can make out of all these engines? There's so many engine choices out there, and they're going away because of this whole EV nonsense. So, like, look, I think let's elevate all the other stuff as opposed to just going right to. Can't hear you at all, by the way.
I was just letting you finish. I was trying to interrupt.
Okay, okay, all right.
Muting for the win. Question: What is the greatest? So, what is the cars you swap the engines into or out of all the time, right? S chassis from Nissan, BRZ FRS GT GR86, whatever the name du jour is. Inline 8 swapped the world.
Inline 8 swapped the world. That's funny.
But what
Great,
is
good
the
one.
greatest engine swap in that platform, in the GR86's lineage, BRZ, FRS, etc.? What is the universally agreed upon best swap that car has ever gotten?
It's the universally agreed upon swap that literally everyone else does. It's an LS.
Wrong. It's Ryan Truex when he did the GT 486 or whatever, when he put the Ferrari V8.
Oh, that one. I thought you meant like, oh, so what's the best one ever done? That's the best one ever done. I thought you meant what's like the most common.
No, not the most common. Well, the most common is probably between an LS and a 2J, but V8 and the 458, arguably one of the best, if not one of the best V8 Ferraris ever made. And the last naturally aspirated one, just to piggyback, how right I was last week.
Yeah. I would say that is the best V8 Ferrari ever made, and I don't think there's a question about that. That's in my opinion, that's the best V8 Ferrari ever made.
You within just V8s, so any other engine platform, you said, okay, we could do a flat four, we can do an inline four, 5-cylinder. Justin, mentioned a 2J and everything like that, or what have you. You could literally do that with all V8s. So the LS is the most common one. You have the Ford Coyote platform. You have the Maserati M187. Nope, that's the police code for murder. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube.
MC20.
No, the old V8 from the Gran Turismo. Those are shockingly inexpensive right now. You can get, your exotic flat plane V8s. You can, there's just so much variety in the V8 realm. You can get if you want to shake windows and annoy people in high rises, you have an LS. Like there's literally a V8 for every single possible thing you could possibly ever need. Engine swap wise.
Or you could buy a V12 and shatter those windows.
I'm still gonna beat you with my V8.
I don't know. So let's turn it over to chat. We've had some comments, but let's everyone that's here now put into chat, what is the best engine that you guys think? Is it a 4? Is it a 4, a 5, a 6, an 8, a 10, a 12? What do you guys think? Want to hear it? Let's leave it in the comments. Let's get a whole bunch of answers. It's easy. Just put a number in, and whatever cylinder count you like, put it in there. So let's see what you guys think. Because what you think is good sounding and what you'd actually buy could be two different things because of what kind of cash you got. Like I'd buy a V10 and V12. I can't do that. I don't have the money for that. So
you could get a V10. You could get a V10.
I mean, I could get a V10.
The Audi V10.
But I shouldn't.
The old Audi V10, not the Lamborghini V10 with an Audi badge on it. The old Audi V10 is.
Oh, in the S8.
Yeah, those are incredibly affordable now.
Yes, but they are horrifically unreliable, and I'm not interested.
I'm just saying. You said it. I mean, there you go. You can get that V10, and I'll just throw a dart at some V8s and throw that into a car and see which one's better.
I like it. All right, so let's see. We got a lot of answers. Steve says 6 cylinders. Charlie also says 6. Isaiah says inline 6. Big. That's a really unfortunate typo, my friend. So sorry. So big turbo 6. Alan with a K20 for the 4 cylinders. Oh, and Alan, by the way, I wasn't saying all Civics sound bad. I'm just saying a lot of Civics.
If you own a Civic, Greg hates you.
Big fart cans on the back. K20, K24s done correctly sound utterly fantastic. So just to get that straight. Luciano says V10 M5 manual is only missing reliability. I mean, yeah, but that's most high-strung BMW engines ever, literally ever. Um, let's see. Oh, Isaiah with K24. So that's another one for the four. Flat four sounds amazing. It does. The flat fours do sound amazing if they're done correctly, especially if they do equal length headers and some really cool stuff with the exhaust. They do sound really nice. Um, Crossplane V8 or Viper V10. That's actually a tough one for Chad because I know Chad is a massive Viper fan. So,
But I did see some idiots throw a Hellcat
V8
engine.
argument side that he's taking tonight. What's that?
I did see some lunatics put a Hellcat V8 into an older generation Viper, which
That would be excellent if that motor was blown. If that motor wasn't blown, then it's pure sacrilege and they should be strangled.
Um,
Not in real life. Not in real life. We got, man, there's a lot. Late model B6, S6 are decently reliable, but the trans is a slug. Yup. K24, K20 swap.
a lot of
Definitely.
Honda fans.
Doug, what's up, Doug? Thanks for joining. Inline 6 is the most versatile. Agree. As far as owning and servicing on a long-term motor, they're my favorite. V12 sound the best. Also agree. Do love V8s, but LS is boring. I mean, to me, LSs are and aren't boring. They are boring because literally everyone does it and it's been done to death. But you can't argue with the reliability and like the versatility of them. It's just you can throw a 5.3 liter junkyard truck motor, turbo it, throw it in an old Volvo 242, and make 600 at the wheels, and basically roll race everyone right out of there and win lots of cash. So it's a pretty good argument to be able to be like, yeah, LS swap the world. I mean, because you can. However, I'm not on that. I'm not taking that side tonight. I'm taking the other side. So
I don't even have to argue anymore.
They are.
Greg will just argue with himself.
That's correct. That's right. I don't even need you. Get out of here.
I will say this: inline sixes being the most versatile. Yes and no. I mean, you think about it. You got V12 length.
Now they are.
But you have to.
I'd say 10, 15 years ago, no, because they're in more applications because more OEMs are utilizing them as opposed to V8s now because they've downsized, they've turboed up. Good example is the Raptor. So
not an
things
inline
like
six.
that. They're becoming. Oh, sorry, not inline six, but sixes in general.
Sixes for the.
They're
I'm specifically talking inline. I mean, I will say, inline sixes are making a comeback. Merc's making one, Mazda's making one, and so on and so forth. But inline six needs a lot of room, which is why you don't see too many apart from your car, you don't see too many transverse inline sixes, because
that's true.
If it don't fit in a crossover, they're not going to make it anymore, which sucks.
True.
Unless you're like BMW, just like. We must put the inline six in the everything, including our SUVs. But
that was pretty good German. I can be honest.
What can I say? I spent a lot of time trying to massage a BMW into working for me, to not much avail.
Alan with a good one because I feel like that's something you would do, or it's something you at least half would do. Datsun 510 wagon with an LS swap.
See, I would think about that, but I don't know. Just something about the 510 wagon. I would try to put like. I'd want it almost to be the GT 4586 of the Datsuns, right? Like find like some engine that has no, like the lunatic who put the Lambo V10 in the 240 wagon.
Yeah.
Find like, that's where I said that Maserati engine. Put a blower on it and have like that in there and stuff like that. Alan's also and the 2J and RB26. Yes. Here's the thing with straight sixes. Greg will tell you I used to be ride or die 2J, like ride or die, mostly because I had an IS300 and that was the easiest engine swap I could do. They're just compromised. They're tall engines, dual overhead cam, which means a lot of weight up high, as opposed to let's just say, I don't know what engine platform could I pick here. A V8, which you can have more displacement, smaller package. I mean, everybody hates on the LS, and like Greg was saying, but the LS is such a tiny footprint, physical volume, not the displacement of the engine, but the physical volume of the engine is so small versus the actual displacement of the engine. And that's why it goes everywhere, because it fits. That's just the biggest thing.
My final argument to that would be someone just shoehorned a Toyota Crown V12 into a GR hatch Subaru WRX body. So
Right.
also he's getting twin turbos for
and
it. So
and how many
you can fit it if you want
and
to.
how many man hours did it take, and how many custom parts, and how many
Actually, I haven't looked into the build too much, but it doesn't sound like it was like insane. It does, like there's one build out there where a guy has been trying to shove a Ferrari V12 transverse into his Ferrari 308. So basically remove the V8 and put a V12 in there, and he's been doing it for like 10 years.
right. And
he also hasn't had like time to like just focus on it, but this guy apparently did. So I don't think it's as many hours as you would think, but I also think that it's not nothing. So I'm sure there's significant work that went into it. I just don't think it's as many as you think.
Yeah. Here's the thing. More and more people are playing with that V12. And because I have Project Car ADD, I look at a lot of different stuff. Now, let me put it this way. Gun to my head, I'm finding some sort of interesting V8 to put into it, because like Doug is saying, he's asking, like, which would you spend more time checking out at a show? LS is a beast on the street for the dollar, but it's still boring. I might necessarily agree with you, but let's just say, you pop the hood on a Datsun and there's a Maserati badge staring you in the face, which is for all intents and purposes a Ferrari engine that's just cross-plane and not flat-plane. Like that that Ferrari V8, the 458 V8 we were talking about before, it's basically that motor, just cross-plane, not and the displacement and stuff is different, but it's basically a flat cross-plane version of that. You see a Maserati badge underneath a boxy Volvo, and it's like, let me take a look at this.
Right, yeah.
But there are horses for courses, right? Like, I will agree. Straight sixes, because of how balanced they are compared to their V6 brethren, sound amazing. Even when you got rid of the rasp on the E46 M3, those things sound amazing, even though they had a completely different firing order to the RBs and the 2Js of the world. So like, I appreciate all engines. And speaking of that V12, like, I would love to play around with that V12, because I've seen it put into Supras twin turboed. I've seen it put into FJ Land Cruisers, not the new one, the old school ones on what's that channel? Skid Factory. So like, I want to mess around with a lot of different engines, but like, if you're just telling me I have to have one engine platform for the rest of my life, it's gotta be a V8. And I think you missed your best possible argument for versatility, and that is the straight six, because it's in M cars, right? It's always been in M cars with the exception of the 90, 92, 93 platform. And so like, it has, like, we know the prowess of the straight six, so it can go in sports cars, it can go in, it goes in the X5 and everything. But what you didn't touch on is Dodge Ram 2500 has a straight six option. It's a Cummins. So points against you for not pointing that out.
I don't know.
I want an LFA. So do I, Isaiah.
Who doesn't want an LFA? It is, without question, I think pretty much every enthusiast would agree with this. It is a top 3 sounding car from factory ever made.
Yeah, it'd be great for an LS swap.
And Chad has literally just negated every bit of argument that he just made in this entire conversation.
Oh, so you telling me a Yamaha developed V10 is going to be a cheaper option than an LS?
Doesn't matter about cheap. In this application is what sounds better. And the LFA sounds way better than every LS ever made. Hands down. There isn't an LS out there that sounds better than an LFA. Zero.
What about the flat plane LS?
No. It sounds epic, but no. It's not even close. Not even close.
All right, so this we obviously want to touch on a couple other things, but I'm
Yes.
curious since we have a bunch of guys in here, bunch of guys talking. I saw some 2J comments, I saw some K motors and stuff like that. Um, if let's just say we're all you have the room for it, Greg. And while you're answering, chat can answer this question. You're building a car. Money is not an object. What engine are
Okay.
you swapping in?
Money is not an object.
Whatever engine you want.
Ooh. Um. So money's not an object, and you have to fit it,
Right.
or it'll just fit.
Well, just assuming with your money comes the level of engineering to shoehorn something in, unless it's something ridiculous like a Bugatti W16 in a Miata.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. That we'll leave that out of this conversation because the W16 is basically the size of a Miata. So we'll leave that.
And it's
Um,
two V8s bolted together. Just saying.
Pretty much, yeah. So, um, I would probably go with. So over actually, it's an interesting question because over the last like 2 or 3 years, I've become very into sound on cars because I like interesting sounds. V8s,
One
or
project, Alan. Only one project.
car car guide debate aside, I do love the sound of V8s. They do sound fantastic.
That's the whole thing with
I
these
also
arguments is that I love V10s, V12s, V8s, straight
I know,
sixes, like all these things.
I know. We're
Shoot,
just
even
taking
the
sides
three
here.
cylinder in the Corolla GR sounds great.
Yeah, we're making content.
You know, but gun to my
Making
head, I'm
content.
taking a V8 if I have to choose one platform for the rest of my life.
Right. So if I'm able to do a swap and it's gonna work, I'd probably go with a V12 because the V12, just in my opinion, has that sound that when it is gone, we are all going to be sad it is. And we're all going to go back to Formula One clips and all go back to Aventador clips and all go back to F12 with, Inconel exhausts and stuff like that clips and watch them over and over again because they're going to be extinct and they're going to be gone. So personally, I would do a V12.
Which V12?
And so that's actually a point that I've thought about a little bit recently, and I would probably take the V12 from the Mercedes S600 because it's the same engine they put in a Zonda, and I would have that built with no turbo.
I just like to point out, chat. Greg could literally have said the V12 from the Zonda on given the rules, and it would have
Well,
been fine.
true, but that engine doesn't exist here and would not be allowed here. So, based on current parameters, I would like current U.S. rules. I would get the S600 engine to do that. When Zondas are at that 25-year rule, that's the engine I would take. But for now, I would take the S600 engine and you know what? Even then, I'd probably take an S600 engine because if you can take that engine, build it, keep it NA, like that's more interesting than just taking a Zonda engine.
Okay,
To like,
I can live
I
with that.
get that Pagani like did a ton of engineering behind it and made it cool, but like if you're making an interesting build, I'd rather start from the bottom and make it cool.
Start from the bottom. Now it's here.
That's right, exactly. Drake it.
Okay.
What about you?
Let me just touch on Isaiah would have a RB28 Neo in my Civic built by Tommy F. Yeah. Alan would have a B16 swapped DF sedan, a K24 slapped EK9, and a stock DC5. Yes, you did break the rules and aim a little higher, bud. I said money was no object. If they're your dream cars, though, please, I hope at some point in your life you get to build at least one of those. At least one. Gosh, for me,
Oh, sorry, Justin. Yes, that's the one we're talking about. But they also put it in the. Actually, no. This I don't know if it's a CSA one. There's a CL600. I'll have to look, but I know it was in the S series from like the late '90s. I want to say, but I'll have to look if it's the same as the CL600 one. I'm not sure.
see that weirdly enough, like I'm trying to think big, bold. Like I'd love to sit here and tell you like a Koenigsegg V8 in a Fox Body Mustang or something ridiculous like that, right? Like,
That'd be crazy.
or like, you know, or like a Barra powered Supra just to be a troll.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
You know, um, I'm trying to think because like a lot of the stuff that's popping into my head because I'd love to do an LS swap Supra just to annoy people,
Yeah.
but they do exist, which literally lends credence to the LS swap everything. Um,
Right.
I'd
Yeah, but so like money no object, what would it be?
I'd probably be looking something midish size sports car wise. Not too big, not too. I mean, I gotta be 100% honest. I would love to see like just so it's not all the same because my first thought is Voodoo, V8 from Ford, but I think this plays really nicely into our next topic of conversation. But I would take a 2UR V8 out of the RCF IS 500, LC 500, the 5 liter V8 from Toyota slash Lexus, and I would shove that into and this is going to shock probably the world. We have that kind of reach, by the way.
All 15 of you on Facebook.
I would probably put that engine in an E46 M3 with the GTR wide body.
Oh, that's sick.
Just because I love the looks of those cars so much and the fact that they're fairly simple,
Yeah.
but just to have that soundtrack because the biggest thing I hate with BMW is just my experience with their engines, which has been terrible.
Yeah.
Steve Gao, inline six in a 2014 Supra WRX hatchback. There's one
That'd be
out
sweet.
there.
There is, yeah.
Two J.
Someone 2JZ saw that GR hatch.
It's gonna take for goddamn ever to find the right one. But
LS in an E30, Alan says that also exists. There's a bunch of people that have done that. Those are good.
yeah,
Those
that's
are really
Mighty Car Mods did one.
Yep.
But like again, that's like you get the body and the styling and the looks with
Yep.
a reliable power, like pick your power level. I mean, all you have to do to figure out the range of the LS is to go on Texas Speed's website and just look at the engines you can get. It's insane.
Yeah.
So, I changed. So they know I'm a Honda boy. My homie Blake's 350Z. Why does Toyota always get the credit? Because, well, they own everything. They didn't get any of the... Well, they got all of the credit for the BMW Upra.
That's right. The Supra.
The Supra, which actually is an even better segue into
Next topic.
our next topic of conversation, which is this.
Hey, it's a Supra.
Yes, Chris. Yamaha and Toyota have a long history of working together. They actually did head development for the 1J. But that brings us to, and Alan, you're right on the nose, and I will get to your point in a second. What you guys are watching is the, well, silhouette of a Supra. And so much has been made on this channel and on every channel with a voice on the BMW nature of the Supra. And while I don't dislike the Supra for that reason specifically, like the fact that it is a BMW and Toyota clothing, I've always maintained that it's not an FT1, so why make the FT1 when this is always going to be a disappointment? But like, I have always maintained that there was a better way to build the new Supra, and it needs no input from BMW or any other manufacturer, and they could have done it in-house. Now, I know a large part of, and basically the reason why this is, BMW power, transmission, differential, suspension, etc., is because Toyota said that they needed a straight six, which I think is nonsense. And now you're looking at the IS 500 with that 2UR engine in it, and I think this would have been the best possible platform for the new Supra. Greg, Do you agree with me, or do you want to be wrong again?
So on this one, I will take your side because I do agree with this. Um, and I've said this countless times on these streams and our videos and in chat and in conversations and whatnot. I want to make it clear, I am very happy we have a new Supra. I that it's a BMW. I just don't. I'm glad we have another Z4. I'm glad that that's a BMW and that we could have another parts share just like we have with the 86 and the BRZ, which there seems to be a lot less chatter about. We have a new Supra. Toyota didn't rebadge the Supra as another crossover. Get over yourselves. We got another sports car. It's not an EV. It's not a hybrid. It's not a crossover. Good things. Everyone shut up. The other side of that is Toyota definitely could have done something different. And that's just like the fact of the matter. Toyota basically said when this came out is we couldn't afford it, which is utter garbage. Absolutely garbage. Toyota is the number one or number two car company in the world year over year, next to Volkswagen Auto Group, which needs 6 times as many brands to actually equal Toyota and Lexus. So Toyota definitely could have made their own version of the Supra. And it should have been, which Chad is about to say, basically this body style or something, but with the V8 that they have in the IS500, the RCF, the LC500, and it goes back to the conversation we just had about like the V8s are versatile. Well, they just are. V8s can go into pretty much anything. One of the first swaps that was on this platform was a V8 swap, was an LS. They did a 2JZ swap because of course they did. And they did an LS swap in the A90 platform. So it fits. What they could have done is they could have taken the RCF or the LC500 and given that a new body and made that the new Supra. And I think that that's what they should have done. I get that like it's not a real Toyota. Toyota had a hand in developing the B58, whether anyone likes to think so or not. It's produced by Magna Steyr. There is ample evidence and literature out there suggesting that Toyota took the B58 and made it up to their standards as far as reliability is concerned. As it stands right now, the B58 that's in these cars is basically is this generation's 2J as far as modding is concerned, as far as power application is concerned. And so far, reliability, there have not been a lot of issues with it. But they still should have done a V8. I think they should have done their, what is it? It's a 2UR, right?
Yeah, that's the...
I think they should have taken that V8 because I've driven that car in driven that engine in multiple different cars, and it's just fantastic. It's so smooth. It sounds great. Pair that with like a ZF 8-speed or a really nice 6-speed manual, and oh man, that would have been so freaking perfect. So I'm with you here.
Yeah, so the whole thing I think of is that they had platforms in place. Now, what people get lost on is, especially when they came to the Supra via the Fast and Furious kind of thing, and they saw the Mark IV, and they saw the way it was driven, and all this other stuff, is the Supra was never a pure 2-seat, out-and-out, just purebred sports car. It was never that. What the inspiration for the Supra nameplate, which was originally a model trim of a Celica, was to be Japan's version of the Mustang, i.e. a pony car, which aren't the smallest cars in the world, they can be made to handle well, but they're not going to be the lightest possible. They're not going to be a scalpel, so to speak, in the twisties and things like that. So at that point, you really open the envelope to what platforms you can use to a very wide range. And I think I was looking at pricing for the IS500, and it's similarly priced to the new Supra. And again, you're Toyota. You have the engineering might of Toyota. You own everything. And You tell me you couldn't re-engineer a body for this chassis to go to be a single seat, or I'm sorry, a two-door coupe. With that, I mean, the whole thing was that it needed a inline six. Why? The GTR, the ones we all fell in love with playing Gran Turismo and stuff like that, were straight six, and they went to a V6, and nobody seemed to care. And you can go down the list. BMW went from a straight 6 NA to a V8 NA to a turbocharged straight 6 in the M cars. And again, nobody seemed to really care. You know, you don't need this whole idea that a certain car needs to have a certain engine in certain cases is pure nonsense. Now, that being said, Mustangs should always have V8s in the top trim level, but you shouldn't downsize. But there's no problem with upsizing. And the 2UR is one of the great V8s that we currently have, bar none. It revs to the moon. It makes crazy power. They're infinitely moddable. They're just great engines. And you have it all here. Put a sexy body on it. Job done. I guarantee you, I challenge anyone to sit here and tell me that they wouldn't have sold as many Supras with that concept as they did draping FT1 styling over a Z4.
I agree with that completely, honestly. I mean, if you're catering to enthusiasts are going to buy something that they think is unique and interesting, more so than they would something that just because it's there. You know, if you give enthusiasts a choice between this with a straight 6 or this with a V8, they're probably going to go with the V8 most of the time, especially if that's the top of the line. If you give general consumers that same choice, they will definitely go for the higher trim if they can swing it. So from a sales standpoint, I think you're correct. If they're going for volume, which these aren't, then I would say the opposite is true, because you're going to get a better value for money. Look at how cars with multiple engine types sell. Most of the time, the 4-cylinder outsells the 6-cylinder. Mm-hmm. However, again, that's for general consumer cars. For enthusiast cars, it's the opposite. So for me, I feel that you have hit the nail on the proverbial head with that. I think that the V8 would definitely have outsold this Supra. If they brought that to market. I really hope that they do it in the future, but I don't think that it's going to be a thing, unfortunately. What I would really be interested in, and I have to look up the measurements, is what could you possibly do for a body swap on the IS 500 from a wheelbase perspective?
That'd be interesting.
Because that would be cool to make like a 2-door Supra with a V8, if you will. Right. But look for that to potentially happen over the next 10 years, because someone's going to figure it out and do it.
Yeah, exactly. And one last thing, and this is the last I'll mention of it. When Toyota wanted to take this Mark IV Supra, which is, anyone who likes Supras, that is the best one. There's really no argument for it. When Toyota took that car racing, do you know what they did with the 2J? They threw it out in favor of a turbocharged 4-cylinder. I forget the exact engine designation. And then eventually, because they wanted more torque, they made a race version of the 1UZ V8. So Toyota told the world that this engine's great, it'll handle a ton of power, but if you want to go around corners, put something else in it. And that's Toyota themselves engine swapped the Supra, so why the hell can't they do it again? And that's the thing that boggles my mind. And to echo your point and to kind of put a bow on this, and we'll get to, I see there's some pretty decent questions in chat.
Yeah.
I am by no means saying that this is a bad car, that people who like it shouldn't buy it. And the fact that it exists is a win for us as enthusiasts. Because if it wasn't for the collaboration, the way Toyota was thinking, the way it had to have a straight 6, without the collab, it doesn't exist. And we are left without a great sports car. So that's the thing. But I just feel like Toyota could have done it better. I just think they were so gun shy from developing the Mark IV Supra and taking a loss on it. They were so gun shy from developing the LFA and taking a loss on it that they're like, we have to spread costs. And I think they found a convenient excuse to do so in the straight six. But I'm just gonna hit on chat our ubiquitous comment that it's not a real Toyota in chat from Charlie. Thank you for that. We would be demonetized otherwise. Isaiah asks an interesting question, and I love to see this. Chat is actually helping him out, which is great. But I'll put this to you, Greg. What should he get as his next car? The budget's $4,500, rear-wheel drive, and a manual.
Oh man, I mean, right now in this market, Miata is the answer because it's probably are going to be able to afford for 4,500. Unless you want to go with something cool and old, you could get a rear-wheel drive 80s, 90s 240 platform Volvo with an M46 or an M47 transmission, which would be really cool. And you could do a whole lot with that. Red block's very reliable, easily rebuildable. M46 transmission's pretty good. M47 transmission's pretty good. Yeah, just an old Volvo, honestly. And you could find those for under $4,000 all day with some money left over to, buy some detailing equipment and make it look nice. So, that's a good shout. Miata, any Miata like that, you can probably find a salvage title BRZ or something like that.
Wow, I just went on Car Gurus.
Rear wheel drive.
And they're only letting me do a 100-mile radius. But in a 100-mile radius of where we live, rear wheel drive and manual, there are 6 cars. Both the first 2 are pickup trucks, and the other one is a V6 Camaro.
Yeah, so I'm gonna continue to push Miata or old Volvo. You can actually find not just 240s. You can find 740 turbos with a manual. You can also find 900 series with a turbo, and 700 series mostly had red blocks, and 900 series had some red blocks. 945s or 940s had red blocks, but you can also get 960s. Which a lot of people don't know about. They had the beginnings of like the white block engines, but it was an inline 6-cylinder white block, which is cool. So those are interesting. I don't think you could get those with a manual. You can manual swap them, but if you're looking for it, has to be manual off the bat. 240, 700, or 900, early 900 series platforms for Volvo are probably your best bet. You can also get manual 850s, but that'll be only front wheel drive. So you're probably going to want to stay away from those. Interesting question from Alan. Why is the Miata a hated car? One, because it has this connotation that it's girly. It's not. That's just the stigma that it's come with because, small, cute, convertible cars are always supposed to be driven by girls. It's just how it's been, or that's how it grew up, basically, from like the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s. But everyone thinks like, oh, if you drive a Miata, you're not a real car guy. It's just like most car guys that say that have either 1, never driven a Miata, or 2, don't know how to drive, period. Because you get into a Miata, you're having way more fun at 25, 30 miles an hour than you are in a Corvette doing the same speed. Because it's that whole connotation of like slow car fast is much more fun on a back road than fast car slow. And that's the truth. Like you take a supercar on a back road, within legal limits, it's not going to be the greatest thing ever. It'll be, dramatic and sound cool. But, if you want to have like pure fun, buy a small car that can't really hold its own and try to drive that fast on a back road. Well, it's very difficult to do. So,
right. And that's,
but Miata is hated just because it's like this, it's the like I said before, it's this connotation that it's a girl's car. It's not. It's an amazing car, and it legitimately changed car culture in a huge way. There was not a reliable small convertible car like that before it, ever. There literally wasn't. And then the Miata came, and everyone in the world basically was like, oh, what's this? We now have to replicate that because they sold so many of them on a platform that sold basically nothing before it. So, in a sense, the Miata sort of like revolutionized the small compact sports car world.
So I will sit here and I'm in the camp when I see Miata, I'm like, eh. It does nothing for me, and I think a lot of that has to do with the general styling was just a little soft, right? It tried too hard to be a Lotus Elan, and not enough to be like kind of its own thing, and it ended up being soft with circular rounds. Now, other people will say that lends it to being, like you said, girly, right? To me, it just doesn't look aggressive enough. I'm not saying it has one, and it just doesn't. It's not that it's girly. It's just that I like my cars to be a little more aggressive. Then you couple it with like it just. Most people hate on it because they, like you said, they don't know what it is. They never driven one, and they don't know how to drive, because they see the specs, right? It's got a 4 cylinder. It makes under 200 horsepower. It's, skinny little tires. Case in point, the original NA Miata, the stock wheels that came on it are the same size as the front rotors on my Mustang. It's like, like
Well,
they're 15-inch wheels. Like they're like there's
right.
nothing. There's like they were just kind of point and shoot. They were doing the British sports car thing way better than the British ever did in a sense of reliability. It was just that it just didn't jump off the page, and no, you don't, and then people ended up, not wanting to mess with them because someone's gonna make fun of me, blah, 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 blah. Like, and then they just sit here and piggyback it, and you end up with mob mentality. When I've often sat here and said, like, there are two engine swaps going on right now that I would love to see. Well, one I know is finished because I've seen the smoking. Who's the smoke guy? Matt Farah.
Matt Farah,
I've
smoking
seen
tire,
him
Matt Farah.
drive a 280 horsepower K swapped Miata to the Honda boys. They literally K Honda or K Miata is literally every single part you need to put a K20, 20 or 24 into a Miata platform, and then you get a little more power, a little more of this, a bigger red line, etc., etc. But the one I want to see finished, and unfortunately their website hasn't updated in over 2 years, so I think the project is dead or they just ran out of financing, is miatabusa.com. And that is exactly as it sounds, an NA Miata with basically you can put a stock Hayabusa engine in it, or you could put the stroked Hayabusa engine in it, and you're talking about something with over 200 horsepower, a 5-figure red line, and tell me sports bikes don't sound amazing. So like, and they're both in Miatas. They're interesting. They're different. Like, to go back to Greg's point earlier, it's just, again, they're a little you can fix it. I mean, I've actually debated doing something crazy like taking the same 5-cylinder that either is in my C30 or Greg's V70R and throwing that into Miata, because that would be cool. Like stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
Miata takes, and Miata is almost the LS of car swappable vehicles, right? It fits a V8 in the form of an LS. It's fit Hellcat engines. It fits, people have put straight sixes in them. There's a company putting flat fours out of Subaru in them, you know, Honda engines, V6 Jaguar engines. Like, the list goes on and on and on and on. So,
Yeah.
I mean, now there are some, like I think the NB, or I think it was the MB and the NC Miatas were just flat out ugly. But that's pretty much it. So,
Yeah.
um,
I think it's also an American thing because if you look in Europe, most enthusiasts, what their like first couple of builds usually are, one of them is a Miata. Like almost every enthusiast in Europe has a Miata as one of their first builds. Like a really good example of that is Alex. I will pronounce his name wrong. Alex Karsten or Karstenen, or I forget his name. Can't spell it, but it's Alex on Cars or Alex on Auto or Alex on Cars, the Car Throttle guy. The guy Alex from Car Throttle. He now has his own channel, still doing stuff with Car Throttle. He has a famous NA Miata named Phil that he named Phil, and he put the rocket the rocket kit in it, which is the Jag V6 that you mentioned, which is the Jag V6 that's out of basically the X Type Jaguar. So that's my personal like Miata that I would do. I'd get an NA Miata and I'd throw that kit in it because that six in that car is ridiculous and it sounds so good. And there's so many videos of him just like ripping it on YouTube and it just sounds great. So I am very much in the camp of like I'm very pro Miata, especially if someone wants to buy one to learn car control because it is a car that I think many enthusiasts should own before they own a bunch of other stuff because I'm also of the opinion that we should redo our license every year here to be able to drive here because that's not a very popular opinion because I'd say a solid 70% of this country, probably 80 or more, can't drive. They can't drive correctly. They don't know appropriate traffic laws. They don't know how to control their car, which is a huge, huge issue. I would love to institute what Finland does and start people driving at 12 on skid pads so they know what car control is. That's what you should do. And that's why you get people like Mika Hakkinen, Valtteri Bottas, and all these great Finnish F1 drivers because they know
Kimmy, how are you
how to
forgetting
drive.
Kimmy? God.
Well, Kimmy, whatever. Sorry, Kimmy too. But Mika was my guy. I had to mention him in the current one at least. Kimmy's gone. He's in NASCAR now. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what we should be doing every year. You know what we should do? We should give everyone an NA Miata to learn how to freaking drive. That's what we should do. Because if you can drive an NA Miata well, with a manual, rear wheel drive, on a back road, you know, there's not a ton of grip there. If you can drive that car well, great. You should be able to drive any car you want. So I really think, Doug, you think a government test would teach people how to drive? No, but I also think it would get people to at least try to learn how to drive a little bit better because your actual livelihood depended on it to get around. And you know what? Make the test harder. Sorry, you failed. You can't drive for a year. Guess you got to go find a job that's remote.
I think every year.
Get off my roads.
Think every year is a bit on the extreme side. While I do believe the sentiment,
100% it is.
I believe the sentiment is there. You know, I think I've said, and Greg took this take. He stole it from me. I've been saying it for years. It's way too easy to get and keep a license in this country.
Definitely is.
You know, think about it this way. You need to take a marking period or a quarter of the school year, in our case, of driver's ed. So that's 45 days, basically, of bookwork training, 6 hours with an instructor, and then technically you're allowed to drive as long as you have a licensed driver of, I forget how many years, in the car with you. That is not nearly enough time to learn how to drive. And like I said,
I was once 16. I was an enthusiast, so I'm fine. But I had lots of friends that were 16. None of them should have been able to drive. None of them.
You know, and that's one of the biggest things is that just, you know, we make it so easy and like it's such an event to get your license. And in New Jersey, they tried this provisional nonsense, which for like a year you can't drive after 11, you can't have passengers like all this that doesn't help you learn how to drive. Nobody's teaching you how to drive. Like I think learning to drive, and I don't believe you me, I have no idea how you implement this at a cost that's not going to be astronomical, but I feel like part of the bookwork should be to driving in a closed space for another marking period or whatever. And then from there, you graduate to your 6 hours, and from there you graduate to driving. But over the course of the year, you have mandatory. Hey, here's this facility. It's the middle of winter. Legitimately, one of the things my father did when I was learning how to drive was we had a snowstorm, and it wasn't so bad that you couldn't get around on the roads, but there was enough snow in parking lots to make them interesting. And he'd literally just have me driving in figure eights in this parking lot. And at random intervals, whether it be a straight line, full lock, etc., he would just be like, you just hit ice, and yank the e-brake. And I'd have to learn. And I had to learn what happens when the ass end comes out. this was a front wheel drive car. I think a Ford Contour at the time, but you know, turning into the slide, you know, modulate. Well, in modern cars, you don't have to modulate the brake, but you know, getting used to the fact that you're going to slam the brake, it's going to vibrate like hell. That might freak a young driver who's never experienced it out. And all these things, and you just keep doing it. Okay, I'm sliding. How do I stop sliding? And okay, oh crap, this is a situation that's uncatchable. How do I not be here and stuff like that? That should be part of the curriculum. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you get all these things, you pass the test, and now you have 2 tons of steel hurtling at anywhere from 25 to 65 miles an hour. That is an extremely dangerous thing. And like, it's not like you go and you operate a plane and they'd be like, okay, you took the 6 hours with an instructor. Okay, bye. You know, here's your dad. He's kind of licensed. You know, like, I don't know. It's Justin and I first driving was Jeep on an old frozen pond. Absolutely.
That's the correct way to do it.
But I just want.
I'll be right back because I'm going to get another one of these before our next topic.
All right. So while Greg is doing that, we'll hit on a couple of things from chat. Alan Lamelli, I have an 18 Challenger. It came with the wife. Not a terrible thing. A V6, and you absolutely hate it. I hope you're talking about the car, not the wife. Here's the thing. So Christian, always good to hear from you, but Christian also says, why don't we just start putting V8s into the Supras like we do the Miatas? I mean, yes. Probably because the Miatas are $10,000 and a new Supra $60,000, but I'm all for it with those who have sufficient means. Alan, I feel like K-swaps are getting to be more popular than before. It's because people are starting to discover them and what they're capable of. Enough people have played with them. And they're, you know, the 2J was the inexpensive thing to swap into everything, boost it to the moon, make a ton of power. And then they started getting more and more popular, and they became pricier. Then you had 1Js, which sort of followed behind, right? And then now that they're both pretty expensive engine options, you can get a K24 pretty much at your local wrecker or any JDM site for not that much money. Slap a turbocharger on it and make 450 to 500 horsepower. Or you go the opposite direction, have them built and make over 300 horsepower NA, which I think is really, really cool to get small displacement, big NA power. Well, over 300 horsepower out of less than 2.5 liters. Common sense is absolutely not that common anymore. Cell phones definitely don't help. That's the other thing, is how to learn how to not be distracted driving. There should be harsher penalties because studies have shown distracted driving is worse than drunk driving. Again, defensive. I've taken 2 separate defensive driving classes just for the insurance breaks. I, as you could well imagine, had a lead foot when I was younger, so defensive driving to knock points off my license was kind of required. And again, I agree with that. I think there should be an insurance every 5 years. You should have to renew a defensive driving license to get better pricing on your insurance. And to the point where normal insurance without this is pretty pricey. And then all of a sudden people are going to start doing it. You go for the wallets. That's the number one solution for almost everything. Learned how to drive in a CRX. That is absolutely awesome. Not so awesome, the lack of second gear, though. Alan, thank you for clarifying. Loving the wife is better. Cars we can hate with less repercussions. I don't know if I said that right.
Questionable.
I mean, she's within earshot. I hope not. Alan asks, what does a 2J go for right now? I think they're in the 4 to 6 range, which puts them JDM imports engines. Low mileage JDM engines. Toyota.
Alan, he was talking about my wife, not yours.
Let's see here.
If mine was in earshot, there would have been a hand and a slap.
So here's the thing. A non-VVT 1J is $5,000, $4,800. Um, why they bother or waste my time with the 7M GTE is beyond me. Let's just go by price high to low. Here we go. So yeah, I, a VVTi 2J with an automatic transmission that's going to get ripped off and thrown in the garbage, $7,000. Like, I remember a time when they were 4 to 5. And then Alan says it right. $1,200 for a K motor. They used to be 700 or 800. Yes, but 700 or 800 to 1,200 is not so as bad as 7,000. That's the kind of the thing, and it's just the way nature of the world. As K motors become more and more popular, there'll be another engine that kind of fills the void. That's not really, because K motors are a head swap away from taking an engine that's in a CRV and turning it into a Type R engine. When Type Rs were NA, and they actually never used the K. At any rate, that's a rabbit hole I don't necessarily want to go on.
Yes.
So I think we are going to kind of do a 180 here. Greg has our next topic, but it should be of interest to you Volvoists out there.
Yes. So without Chad's intro there, what is one of the best or fastest growing automotive companies out there? Would you think that it's still Toyota because they're huge, or would you think it's something else? Surprisingly, it's actually Polestar. And if you don't know who Polestar is the EV branch of Volvo. Now, Polestar used to be the M division, if you will, of Polestar, and they made like hotter cars of Volvo's products. For example, I own a 2016 V60 Polestar, which means that it has a transverse mounted 3-cylinder engine from factory, putting out about 350 horsepower, which is pretty good considering that Volvo is more known for safety than performance, at least outside of the Volvo circle. Those in the Volvo circle know that Volvo's made some pretty cool stuff over the years. A British touring car that was a wagon in the 90s. Who the hell does that? Nobody. That's awesome. But they've done that over the years, and they've had these sneaky, cool little sleeper cars. Volvo's always been known for great wagons. They've always had great wagon sleepers, the V70Rs, the 850Rs, or 855s. And over the years, getting good with the V70s, and then the V60 was their last real one. The sleepers. They made a V60 with 400 horsepower as a hybrid recently, so that's pretty cool. But Polestar has been spun off into this EV arm now, and they're their own company. They came out with the Polestar 1, which was this 600 horsepower hybrid, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. Pretty serious performance car. Pretty awesome. But as an EV brand, they are one of the fastest growing companies in the entire world based on percentages. So basically, what I want to talk about is Polestar itself, and it's basically the fastest growing car company that no one really knows about, because outside of maybe this stream or a couple of our videos or some interesting things out there, not a lot of people know about Polestar. So I thought it would be cool to kind of talk about them, because I found an article recently and I sent it to Chad. Basically, Polestar has doubled its sales and revenue in the first half of 2022 alone, which is pretty bananas to think about, especially in this car market, because you have car companies that are basically saying, we don't have product, we don't have this, that, and the other thing, and our sales are either down and our margins are up, or the other way around. Like, we have enough inventory, but our sales numbers aren't quite there, whatever. But Polestar, as you can kind of see on screen, their revenues are way up, their costs are up, their gross profits up, everything's basically up. So my question to you guys, and especially in chat, is like, have you heard of Polestar before? Do you know of them? What do you know of them? If you know anything about Volvo or Polestar, leave it in chat. I know there's a couple of you in there, especially Doug. Doug's in here a lot. It's he knows, because he actually works, I believe, at a Volvo dealer, as we talked about at Carlisle. And he says right now, lots in rental fleets. Not that I don't love Polestar. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Which is also why Ford has huge inflated numbers too, and Toyota too. They do things with, Ford with the F-150 with huge truck fleets, and Toyota with Camrys with Uber. They have, massive Uber fleets and taxi fleets all over the world. But Polestar is another one of those. Again, fleets is a huge thing for Polestar. However, in the consumer side, they're having a major uptick worldwide. And part of that is getting more notoriety out there. And I specifically wanted to touch on the concept that just was at Monterey Car Week, which we talked about in a previous stream, which is the O2 concept. And it's really beautiful. It's one of those things where they said, oh, we're taking pre-orders for this car. And
is it actually pre-orders or is it like pre-rental, whatever the crap they?
No, it was pre-orders for the car. So the car is going to cost $200,000, and the pre-order was $25,000. And if it was going to be like a Tesla scenario where you could put down maybe like 1 or 2,000, I was gonna do it and see if I could save up over the next couple of years to see if it could potentially happen. But couldn't come to be. But interestingly enough, and this was my whole point of this whole tirade and whatever, the Polestar O2 concept, which I think they made a convertible for LA, for Monterey Car Week. I think it was called the LA concept. They basically sold out of that in a week. And this is from a fledgling upstart, EV company that not a ton of people know about, which I thought was very interesting and cool. And my Volvo background, it's one of those things where, I just thought it was a really interesting point. This thing to me is one of the best top 5 concepts of the last 20 years, honestly. And the fact that they are having the cojones to actually make this, like they are making this car. This is a concept car that they are making 500 units out of. That's awesome. They have my undying respect for that. I don't care if they're an EV company. I don't care what they do from here on out. I respect Polestar for that because so many companies, and Chad, you will definitely back me on this, because of the FT1 concept and the Supra, they make this beautiful concept, they never make it. This company said, we have a gorgeous concept, screw it, we're going to make it. And that's awesome. And I honestly wish I had the money because of anything right now, if I had the cash, that's what I'd buy. Just for how much respect I have for what they did and saying, we're going to make this concept car work.
Absolutely. I mean, I would totally 100% buy this and LS swap it. But here's the thing, right? So let me ask you these questions because just so they're clear, and I don't know if you touched on it. The concept as it sits is 100% what's going to be made. Like you ordered one of these.
Yes.
That's what you're getting. So that's what you're getting right there. Okay.
Yeah.
In that case,
they've said that there's no changes to it. Like this is a working concept.
So in that vein, 100%. Like if you're gonna show us something cool, and people say we want that, and then you go ahead and say
make it.
We weren't planning on it, but give us lots of money and we might, and people give you lots of money and you make to make things that drive enthusiasm will always get my respect. Like you said, to things that always because Polestar is an interesting company. Yes, they're all electric, and whatever your thoughts are on an electric car, the fact of the matter is that they're coming. Their EV market share is up every single year. And so why not make them interesting? And that's what I like about Polestar is that even the Model 3 competitor, whatever it's called, I admittedly, I have not done a ton of research on Polestar, but they have that.
It's the
Polestar 2.
The Polestar 2 is their best selling
one.
Yeah.
The one that's fully electric, right?
Yep.
Even that is interesting looking. Like, I mean, Yes, click on our car
Yeah,
and
it's like
see.
it's crossover-y, but it's not. It's like sort of this like lifted sedan
This
almost.
this
It's
almost gives me C30 vibes or S40 vibes from back.
yeah. So the closest thing I can compare this to is when Subaru made the
Baja.
Legacy Outback. No, Baja, nah, Baja's the best car ever made. No, it was when they made the Legacy Outback. So it was that sedan, but it was lifted like an Outback.
Yeah.
And this reminds me a lot of that. Not necessarily in like the off road prowess that you would get with Subaru and stuff, but
Yeah, I get that
to
vibe.
me, this has a lot
I'm
of that to it
resisting.
because
I'm
it has
resisting
that
you on.
sedan-y
I'm resisting
kind
you
of thing.
on crossover vibes because if anyone who watched last week knows how I feel about that. But
But I mean,
real
they
quick,
call
not to
this
cut you,
crossover. It's not.
not
It's a lifted sedan, is what it is.
not not to cut you off there, but Alan Lamelli has a excellent question. Dumb question. Does Polestar do semis? No, they give Greg semis, but Volvo does the actual big diesel trucks.
That's all. That's all accurate. Yes. I would imagine they might delve into that eventually, just because of Volvo's history with 18 wheelers and semi trucks, and also because of what you mentioned with Tesla, trying to bring an electric semi to market. So I don't think it's out of the question, but that's definitely not their focus for the next 20 years. I don't see that happening for
I
a good
can't see.
while.
Well, here's the thing. It's weird, right? I can't see a luxury brand like this going the semi route, but there's Volvo does it. I think Mercedes definitely makes big trucks and things like that. Who knows? I would just see eventually Volvo is going to be all electric too, and Polestar is just going to be what it was kind of originally, which was the AMG to Volvo, right? It's just they're just going to be the performance interesting cars because like I said, eventually Volvo will be all electric, and at which point there's no reason to say that they're the electric arm of Volvo. So I think performance, and they don't want to see, I don't know, a big ass diesel thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I see Polestar becoming more of the electric performance brand, because Volvo will be more of the commuter car stuff, and I think Polestar just is still trying to get footing. So they're utilizing commuter cars as part of that basis, and then eventually they will be more of the performance, not necessarily all sports cars kind of thing, but like more of the I guess as Lexus is to Toyota in a way. But again, it's hard to tell because these are very Volvo. If you're inside a Polestar, this is very Volvo. If you've been in any Volvo in the last 5 years,
I mean, they even have
the
They even
interiors are
have Thor
essentially the same.
headlights. So like,
Right, exactly. So I mean, it's Volvo's EV arm
oh man,
right
imagine
now.
how good this would
With
look
what
if
that
you
involves.
channeled it.
Wait,
If you
what?
just channeled it, took meaning.
What do you mean channeled it?
Okay, hold on. Car guy best friend, and he doesn't know what channel. Other.
What do you mean?
You ever
There's
hear?
so many things that channeling could
You ever
be.
hear the phrase chop and channel?
No, actually, I haven't.
So in hot rodding, let's see if I can get a big picture of the car. Here we go. In hot rodding, to chop is to lower the roof.
Oh, okay.
Channeling is lowering the car, but taking it out of the midsection of the car, lowering the waistline of the car. That's channeling.
Okay.
So, one of the big things with modern design that I'm not a huge fan of is
High waistline.
the super high waistlines and the super tall
Yep.
quarter panels.
I see what you're saying now.
So if again, that's kind of the thing. Like if you just took an inch and a half out, just kind of hunkered her down a little bit, that's a very good looking vehicle, and that's like that's an EV I would mess with.
Yeah, it's cool. But I mean,
Scion
Polestar as a
TC.
brand is just in. Yeah, Christian, excellent troll. Honestly, you're not wrong. It does kind of look a little Scion TCE in a way. That C pillar definitely has that vibe to it a bit, but just way more luxurious than a Scion TC because those things were absolute trash.
Hey, look, some pictures
yeah, I
that
mean,
don't
this is
involve.
this
Oh,
is
there's one with the bike. Why is it all the bikes?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting car company because it's one that not a lot of people know about. It's EV because, and everything's going EV, but it's not your general thing from like a Ford or a Chevy or whatever. It's European luxury that's a little understated, and that personally, that's why I really like Volvo. It's because it's that really nice go between a Ford and a Mercedes. It's not quite workman, but it's not quite snooty, put your nose up in the air. It is utilitarian luxury, and to me, like, that's my kind of car. It's something that will give you the luxury feeling but can also do the job whenever you ask it to. Like, I really gravitate towards cars like that, because to me, again, for my personal preference, I like interesting cars, and to me, that's a much more interesting car. Like, that's why I own an XC90 as opposed to just going out and buying an old X5 or an old M-Class Mercedes. I think the XC90 is a better design car than those. I think it looks better in inside and out. I think it's a better overall design, um, without, like, smack you in the face luxury. And it's the same thing here with Polestar. It's European understated luxury, and I really like that. And Justin actually brought up a interesting point, that I will not bestow my opinion on, because I don't know anything about the markets literally at all, other than the car market. Just checked Polestar's current share price, as in stock share, is $6.79 or $6.79 per share. Do you think it's worthwhile buying some shares if it's a fast growing company? Honestly, again, and don't take this as any kind of advice at all, but I think buying any EV car company right now outside of Tesla, because that's not an EV car company, that is a tech company that's masquerading as an EV car company. Um, Buying any of those right now is probably a solid bet, because even if you throw like $200 at one and they blow up to be the next Tesla, well, your $200 can turn into like 20 grand over the next 15 years.
Real
So
quick.
a solid investment if you like have a couple $100 to kind of just chuck at it and then forget about it for like a decade. So if you're looking for a get rich quick on stocks kind of thing, no, that will definitely not do it for you. But if it's something that you want to invest in and then just like forget about it for a while, sure, go ahead. I mean, if you're going to go gamble with the money anyway, this is a better way to do it than just throwing it on blackjack.
I don't know. I got a system, man. Here's the thing. As far as the personal finances of getting shares of this company with this borderline disturbingly skinny spokesperson, do you?
Yeah, that is a
don't
beanpole, man.
don't. We are car guys. I can sit here and tell you what the best possible mods for a Ford Mustang GT from 2015 to 2019 or from 2022 is. But as far as finances, that's something you really should either speak to a professional or watch it. And then you say, you know what? I like where it's going. I'll hop into it or anything like that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you do it. Greg makes good points. EVs in general, especially EVs in general that have the might of a major car manufacturer behind it, are not a bad idea. It's just talk to a financial person before you listen to us, because I don't want next week's stream to be like, damn you, Greg, I lost $500. Like,
Yeah, and that's why I said don't take it as advice.
Disclaimer: you're literally talking to
person.
two guys who, over the course of the last 3 years, have spent close to $25,000-$30,000 on car parts. So,
Yep.
like, just keep that in mind. That's where we spend our money.
Solid investment.
I bought my C30 at $5,500. If I were to sell it today, it'd be worth $3,000. So,
yes.
But Chris, Volvos were the first fully vegan luxury sedan.
That's true.
Okay.
That's a true statement.
Wow.
They made a big stink about it, saying that they would no longer be using real leather or any kind of material that came from animals. So all of their interior now is fully vegan.
Leather's so much better.
Which,
I mean, we are literally using a renewable resource in cows.
I know you could just birth more.
Cows make more cows.
Only we could plant them like trees. Like, oh, there's another crop of cows over there.
And then, uh, are you even allowed to chop trees down for in veganism? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
I
I
was
have
like,
no
I
idea.
have no idea. They seem like pretty. They're gonna stop before I get in trouble.
Chris disagrees with you. He says, "BS. Leather sucks." I don't know. I'm with Chad on this. I like leather. I think leather's awesome.
Leather done the right way is good. Leather taken care of is good. Leather in
Yes.
a like. I kind of regret getting the Recaro leathers in the Mustang just because of the nature of how they grab a hold of me and the way the leather fatigues and stuff like that. I have uh, I probably spend more time conditioning the leather in the Mustang than I do cleaning anything else of it. The wheels are so bad, but it's not mobile.
Yeah.
So actually, it
Yeah.
is. I would just have to literally push it.
Point of clarity from Doug, and thank you, Doug, for being way more knowledgeable about Volvo than I am. Actually, most Volvos use leather, but the C40 is fully vegan. So that was the one that was the first one, and so far apparently the only one that is fully vegan.
Alan goes, a vegan car? What? Made of plants? I mean, if it's a cotton blend, then yes.
No, vegan is basically just like no animal. So
No animal
they're
other than
cool
the
with
dinosaur that would died to make the power.
That's right. Yeah, I'm a fan of leather. I like leather in the car. Honestly, I have leather in both my cars. The one thing I don't like on cars is Alcantara steering wheels, just because all the oils and all the stuff from your hands just mats it all down and makes it feel like total garbage. And that's the one thing I don't like about my V60 Polestar is the wheel. I just because it has, and it's honestly the dumbest thing ever. It's 3/4 of the wheel is leather, and then a quarter of it that you can see is Alcantara. And I'm like, why? Why even do that? This is a absolute waste of material. Just make the whole freaking thing leather. So one of the first mods I'm going to do next year is a new steering wheel because I can't stand mine. Hate it. Absolutely hate it.
Oh, you have kids, Alan. That makes sense. I don't.
Hey, I have kids and both of my cars have leather and they've held up great, honestly. Um, uh, if it's a car seat issue, you just get one of those car seat savers from Amazon. You put it right underneath that, strap it down. Car seat strap still right on top of it, just the same as it would for anything else. Um, and honestly, like my kids are pretty messy, and the leather cleans up great. It's easier than cloth, especially for staining. If they throw like a juice box down, leather wipes right up. Cloth does not. Like you got to get like a wet vac or some sort of vacuum in there, carpet vacuum to like really kind of like get the stain out. But like the leather, you can kind of just wipe up. It's nice, honestly. Like most kids' cars, I feel like should have leather because it's a lot easier to clean. And if there is a stain, leather also still easier to clean than cloth in that respect. You can get different dye kits that take probably all of 15 minutes. They really are, if it's that bad, but a really good detail from a quality local detailer will take stains out of pretty much anything. So just as easy to clean, in my opinion.
All right, how to clean up after kids. God, thrilling
I know you're
conversation.
riveted. Oh man, but yeah, the whole thing about Polestar was the last thing we wanted to would touch on tonight, which I just thought it was an interesting conversation because it's a very cool company, and it's surprising, especially when you think of this EV car company bringing this cool concept to Car Week of all places, where they have tens of millions of dollars worth of not cars, car in certain aspects, and they still have enough like notoriety and design prowess to bring this concept there, and it sells out in a week. That's cool to me. I really like that. I think that's really interesting. So, Polestar, really cool car company to check out in the future and to keep an eye on because I think they're going to do some big things.
I mean, honestly, like there's some other like there's some other car electric car companies like your Rivians, your shoot, what's the one that
Rivian's another.
Lucid,
Yep.
the Lucid Air.
Yep.
But like in the Lucid Air's case, it's like I respect the hell out of the performance. It's just trying to like it's the Mercedes EQS or EQ or whatever EQS or whatever it's called.
EQS.
They're trying too hard to be what we. It's almost like a Jetson syndrome, and what I mean by that is they're trying to predict what the car of 2035 will look like when it's a lot of places, Europe included, are
Yeah.
only going to allow new cars to be sold that are electric, as opposed to the Polestar, which looks like if you put an internal combustion engine could be from today, 5 years ago, that sort of a thing. Like I like
Yeah.
that. I like being in the now as opposed to what someone assumes the future is going to be, just because usually they get it wrong, and it looks goofy as hell
Right.
when that time frame
Yep.
comes around.
Yeah, totally. 100%. Um, and I'm really excited for some of these really cool other EV things coming out. For example, we talked about it on a previous stream that Hyundai Envision 74. And what was the other one? The other EV. I think actually it was the Polestar O2 concept that we just talked about. But there was another one that was like retro futuristic. That was really cool.
The Charger.
That was another one. That was another one that came out. There was another one that I'm thinking of that I can't think of. Someone just re-rendered the A70 Supra as like this retro futuristic kind of thing, and like I would love to see, you know, EV companies and EV designers do retro futuristic stuff for how EVs could be, because that could really bring in a whole different audience to the EV landscape, which I think would be really cool. Plus they look just badass, which is cool.
Right. I mean, the thing that's going to hold. So I like the retro styling idea just because it makes electric cars interesting, because effectively, as an enthusiast, you look at an electric car and capability, off the charts. Straight line performance, off the charts. Just
Yeah.
ease of maintenance and ease of power, off the charts. But they are soulless. They don't. There's not really apart from mind bending acceleration. There isn't much there. So if you can kind of take that and make it interesting with a bot, like someone in here said, a DeLorean. I think a retro modern version of the DeLorean that's all wheel drive or that's electric would sell insanely well. I don't know if I'd love the idea of a unfinished stainless steel body on an electric car, but all that sort of stuff is just and the new one does look pretty sick too, and like, but like that sort of a thing, like imagine like we said, like imagine like an Opel GT EV that looks like 1968's person interpretation of 2020, like, or 2022. It's, yes, Chris, I had forgotten about it. You're 100% right there. What I meant more was like, I think the 80s are a long forgotten haven of great automotive stuff, but they weren't as celebrated as stuff from like today or like the 60s, because it was smack in the middle of the 1970s, which had some great cars, but then the fuel crisis, cars got neutered,
Yeah.
and then 80s cars got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And but like there's so many, like imagine a Mitsubishi Starion EV kind of retro modern thing. Like,
That'd be cool.
there's so much potential there. There's so many old quirky cars that if you put a modern spin on would look good. The
Yeah.
sky's the limit. Like, I mean, obviously Polestar is going in a different direction, but like that's what I don't like. Like the Lucid, the Tesla, like they just look like fast tools, and I don't mean tool as in like,
No, yeah.
like that, but it
Yeah.
almost like a family of four is buying a Tesla Model S, like a landscaper would buy a lawnmower. It just so happens that lawnmower has a jetpack strapped to it, but it's really
Well, that's what EVs basically are. Is like they're the instant torque thing, and I mean, a lot of cars are just like that these days because, and this is going back to our conversation earlier, was, people don't like to drive. People see it as this menial task. And that is why we have to build cars, or car companies have to build cars to satisfy people's inherent inability to drive. Because whether we like to think so or not, and consumers love to think so or not, cars are the yardstick of civilization right now. If we don't have cars, no one goes anywhere. And actually, cars have kind of been supplanted by the internet. The internet right now is the yardstick of civilization, because without the internet, almost everything right now would.
It's the internet.
What the? Well, it's this place. No, but like cars, before and even into a lot of the internet were the yardstick of civilization. If you didn't have a car, you had to get access to public transportation, which is sort of like having a car, but someone else just owns it and brings you places. But, internal combustion and vehicles, if you didn't have that, you didn't really have a job, because unless you lived close enough to walk, you needed to get somewhere. And cars and public transportation, they got you there. So it's this great debate of like, oh, enthusiasts are all angry because we're catering to consumers. Well, consumers are 99% of the sales. So what are car companies going to do?
Cater to me.
To make money. So, I mean, I wish they did. But the problem is they don't. And that's not going to really... it's not going to pay the bills. We have the Porsche Cayenne, so we can have the Porsche 918. That's how it works now. And that's just how it's going to work from here on out. And
go away with your logic.
To change behavior of people, right, is a lot more difficult than changing the tool that they use, which is why, bringing it back around, we have to then get self-driving going, because people are too distracted with their phones and this, that, and the other thing. It's just it's the path we go down because people don't like driving. So to bring it all back in is,
so here's a solution for those of us who enjoy driving.
People
make the cars for us, and then make taxis for everybody else.
Right, but honestly, that's what they should be doing. But
or like Alan suggests,
that would also never work.
Start selling.
Enthusiasts would be on the roads constantly wanting to drive properly, and all the taxis would just, the self-driving taxis would
give
not allow
enthusiasts the job of driving
the
taxis. That's their day job.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know. It's
politics
tough.
Solved. Or you can just go down the road Alan mentioned and just buy a donkey because carrots are cheap.
Carrots are expensive now because of the droughts. Have you seen what a pound of carrots costs now? It's like freaking $8.
No, I have good eyesight.
Crazy. I have kids, so I have to make them have good eyesight.
Oh man. Yeah, Doug's. We are at a live stream rather than a car show at the moment.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Internet's the new yardstick.
Oh, the internet is the new yardstick.
Everyone would die without the internet. It's so accurate. So accurate, Alan. 100%.
Oh,
How many carrots per mile? For me, 0. I don't eat carrots. I friggin' hate them.
CPM is the new metric to go by.
That's right. For donkeys, it's a lot. You gotta have at least 40 carrots per mile.
I lost the picture. I saw this thing of like the other day where it just got me, the carrots per mile got me down it. Where it's like the average golfer walks 9 miles or something, or like they walk an average distance and then they consume X amount of alcohol per year, so they basically get 41 miles per gallon. And I was like, the guy's like, yeah, I feel kind of proud. I'm almost like a hybrid.
Pure ethanol, right?
Oh my gosh.
That's good.
Anything else, Greg? Any updates on any vehicles you own?
Wait, what's that?
Any updates on vehicles you may or may not own and or building and or drive recently, regularly? Never at all?
Although my Polestar is having some issue. I think I have a bad O2 sensor. So basically we did install the downpipe. on the car. I tuned it from Hilton, which is very cool. It sounds epic. We should have a vlog out this week of me reacting to the install, because when we did it, it was right before I was going on vacation, and then I immediately got sick for 2 weeks with some kind of virus. Not the virus that happened for the last 2 years, but a different virus, one of those kitty viruses called an adenovirus. You basically, everyone gets it. We were all sick.
COVID-23.
Horribly. So, yeah, pretty much. So I wasn't able to do anything but react kind of to it. But the next video after that I make, we're going to, I'm going to go back, talk to Sean, ask him how it was to install it. I'm going to look at the car. I'll show some pictures of it, of the install and everything, and then I'll get some better footage of the before and after, as well as talk more about the pipe itself, the Hilton tune, and some of the other stuff we did to the car. But right now it's got to check engine light, because I believe we have a bad O2 sensor, because the car is sort of getting up to 3,500 RPM and then sort of plateauing on power. And all of the signs,
if you had a V8, that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, right. All signs are pointing to just a bad O2 sensor. So going to replace that with a part from FCP Euro, because if it goes bad again, hey, free. So
are those wideband or?
Good question. I want to say no, but I don't know. I have to look into it.
Huh. Oh, fair enough.
I honestly just don't know. Doug in chat may know better than I do. But the car is sort of like wonky right now. But this Friday I'll be dropping that off. Other than that, I have no updates on the 240, as I still can't get in touch with the builder. And I'm hoping to find another car or two to maybe have as a project over the next couple of years. So we'll see if anything happens in the next couple of months. So stay tuned.
Fantastic.
Doug doesn't know either. Good. So hey, my lack of knowledge is passed on. I don't know.
There you go. Alan asks, I'm assuming you guys are on the West Coast. He basically assumes that because of the drought. False. East Coast. Northwest New Jersey has been just
yeah. Other than yesterday and today and one other day, there's been about 50 days straight of no rain.
Yeah. And I work on a golf course.
It's been bad. It's bad.
Yeah. Basically,
it's
if you
really
spots we didn't water on the golf course are brown, and spots on the golf course we didn't water that get traffic are dead. Like it's
like dirt.
And it's spots where our irrigation can't reach even, and our irrigation's straight out of the 60s, and I wish I was joking, and that's another stream altogether. So we got someone from Connecticut, someone from Ohio. Nice. Yeah, eventually,
Chris.
guys.
Oh, wait. Chris, to answer your question, what's going on with my car most likely is an O2, because that does control the fueling for the whole car. And when you swap them out of downpipes, they do pretty commonly.
Oh, wait, you didn't swap? You didn't replace the O2 when you did the downpipe?
No, because the O2 was functioning just fine. So we figured put it in, see if it worked. And there was no check engine light for the first 50 miles, and then it kicked in. So I'll have to see. But that was only because of the downpipe. Like, the downpipe on these cars throws a code regardless of a good O2 or not. So you have to tune it out. And I throw the tune on, the tune still has the check engine light, which it shouldn't. So we're thinking it's just a bad O2 sensor.
And it's the same length wire?
Same length wire, same bung. There's no O2 spacer on the front, which is usually the issue. There's an O2 extended bung on the back O2 sensor.
Extended bung.
Extended bung. But everything is pointing to a bad O2 sensor, even the codes that I pulled through V8's. So talking with the tuner, trying to figure it out, and I'll get that part. We'll replace it, because that's the cheapest part of it. The other steps are more expensive. So we're going to start with the cheaper part and then work our way up. Someone's BSing you. No, on these cars, the O2 controls the fueling on the whole car. So I promise you that the O2 sensor on these cars basically like makes it plateau. And I actually had that same thing happen on my 2017 XC90, which is both turbo and supercharged. I had a bad O2, and it reduced performance in the car significantly. So bad O2s in these newer Volvos definitely reduce performance until the O2 um, is replaced.
Either way, that should be interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, that's certainly an easier fix than, you know, replacing the freaking transmission.
Oh yeah,
I mean, to
that's
be
a fun.
fair,
That's a
I
fun
could just
topic.
replace the clutch, and it would be cheaper than replacing
Well,
the
true,
transmission. But I already have a clutch.
true.
I already have a flywheel. I already have a slave cylinder. I already have everything I could possibly need for it. I have a brand new uh, remote shifter relocation kit and reinforcement kit. I have all of this stuff ready to go. It's just for 26 spline, not 23. And hopefully, I did hear the boys at Blue Sky are moving in the next few weeks. So hopefully, once they move,
Oh really?
yeah, this.
They found a new building?
I was actually talking to the guy who does their insurance. He plays in the golf leagues.
Oh, interesting.
So, according to him, they are moving, and I'm hoping once they move or once they have a head wrapped around the move, the Mustang can get time in. Unfortunately, it looks like it probably won't be done in time to enjoy really this year, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But at the very least, it'll be getting worked on and done, and then that just means more C30 content made by Greg.
Pretty much. Um,
But yeah, like
oh,
so once I get the
go ahead.
Mustang sorted, figured out, then I'm gonna start looking for a truck, and once that is fixed, then we work with the C30.
Okay, cool. Cool. I dig it. Christian says limp mode. Actually, it's funny. It's funny. It's not in limp mode. My car. It's really powerful up until 3,500 RPM, and then it just stops. And it still goes. Obviously, there's power there, but it's just like it goes, and then just kind of plateaus on power. Like if it was on the dyno would read like this. That would be it. It's definitely a cutting of power for sure. Um, for sure. But oh, Alan says it sounds like Subaru. Um, you do anything aftermarket, it needs a tune. Yeah, because of how the math is on those cars. You do an intake it's before math. You gotta mess with AFRs. Um, downpipe on those cars you absolutely have to tune. Downpipe on certain Volvos you don't. V70Rs you could slap a downpipe on it and just be totally fine. That's just how they are.
Yeah, it's a 20-year-old car
Um,
though.
well, true, but the even 20-year-old Subarus, if you threw a downpipe on it, you had to tune, or else your AFRs and all that stuff would be horrible, and your engine would likely just
Right. Well,
really not like it,
here's
and
the
eventually just fail.
here's the crazy thing on the Mustang. I had to the Mustang comes with like pretty baller equipment as far as sensors, and an ECU. Like the ECU on the Mustang is actually really good because you have O2 sensors, you have head temperature sensor, which it prefers
Hmm.
air intake. So like I don't have a MAF, I have an air intake temperature sensor, and that works on and that is a more accurate way of tuning an engine than mass airflow. So
Yeah.
it has a lot of stuff, a lot of really good stuff. But because you had to lengthen the wire for the O2 sensors for when I put the headers on it, it needed a tune. You mess with the intake, need a tune. Like that's just modern cars. If you mess with anything, the base tune doesn't like it because they're tuned to such a degree now, like to such a finite, like just exact level of air, fuel, timing degrees, all this stuff, that any little thing that throws it out of whack could risk the engine, and therefore it won't let you go above 3,500 RPM.
Lovely.
But I mean, at any rate, it's just we now have to do something that you should do regardless. If you make major mods to your
Yeah.
car, whether it
Yeah.
be a downpipe, headers, intake, well, not for an intake only, but like an intake manifold, you know, all these little things
Yeah.
that seem like bolt-ons, like you should have a tune for it. Otherwise, you're wasting your money, and all you're doing is making more
Yeah.
noise.
Right. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, you're changing airflow into the engine. You should have your engine and your engine management compensate for that. Like so, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You should be doing that. Is it 100% necessary on every single part? No, it's not. Like Chris made a good point. The old Volvos run on a speed density tune. Most other cars run on a MAF tune, which is exactly the difference between the Volvo and the Subaru in that respect. 20-year ago, Volvos speed density tune. 20-year ago, Subarus MAF tune. So that's mostly part of the reason why is because you're changing airflow in two different applications. So, but to your point, like if you're changing something like an intake manifold to get the most out of that, a tune will get the most out of that. So you should tune your car. Same thing with downpipe on the P2 V70Rs. Like I said, like do you need a tune for that? No. Will it give you extra horsepower? Yes. Should you tune to get more horsepower? Yes. And optimize the engine for that downpipe and the differentiation in exhaust flow? Yes. Absolutely yes. That's what you should be doing. So, it's just something that needs to that should happen if you want to get max performance out of what you're doing.
Right, and there's so much modern engines. And just like Christian said, he'll happily keep building his cars without ECMs. Modern cars. So, like, here's an example, right? Like, say you put some stuff on, and it doesn't necessarily require a tune. More than likely, the car is going to be safe and put more fuel than it thinks it needs in just to keep temperatures down. Well, that could have a long term. That could clog injectors, foul spark plugs over the long term. Excessive carbon buildup on valves and things of that nature. So, like, if you're going to modify your car in every meaningful way, you should get a tune on it just because. A reputable tune. Go on, find out. These guys are the best. These guys are I liked this tune. This is find out which the best one is and just go with that. Or if you have the means, get dyno tuned. Like, I can... the Mustang ECU can be tuned on a dyno with data capture and all this other stuff. So, like, keep in mind, because that's what will have to happen to the Mustang when boost is applied, is I will not be able to get a canned tune anymore. I will have to have a bespoke tune, which is what you want.
Right.
It's $1,000, but it's worth it because you're not only getting the most safe horsepower you possibly can out of your engine. And after all, we're all here for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we're getting actually down to the end here, because we've been on for almost 2 hours now. But I'd like to say you guys were awesome in chat tonight because we've actually hit a record on comments for one of these streams. We're at 284 comments. So I think let's everyone just throw 2 more comments into chat right now, and we'll get our record at over 300, which is pretty amazing considering we started this, earlier this year and had like 40 people commenting on it, and now we have huge conversations going on, which is awesome. So I appreciate all of you guys tuning in and watching this and chatting with us, because this is just fun. It's enthusiasts having fun car conversations, and hopefully we can a little bit of knowledge on you with these fun car guy debates or news articles or whatever. So I appreciate all that you guys do. And if you guys really want to, help support us, you can send us stars here on Facebook. You can opt into our private group, which basically we're trying to build up to have more chats with you offline off of these things. We want to get that group on Facebook to a point where we can start giving back more to you guys with giveaways on merchandise, discounts, and if we have enough money, pay your car bill 1 month, or even give away cars in the future. So anything you guys send to us, we really do appreciate. So we appreciate everything you guys do, and I will get off my soapbox because we're at 295. So we're getting real close. So thanks so much for you guys for keeping this going. We're definitely gonna hit 300. You guys are the best. So and even Chad threw it in there. We love you, Chad. I appreciate that, Chad. Good job, man. Oh, don't worry, Steve. Steve says, I definitely missed over an hour of this. Don't worry. This is on demand. You can literally go back on our Facebook page and watch the whole thing. which is cool. And you can continue to comment on it, which is the best part. That's why I do like. That's one thing I do like about these Facebook things, about doing it on Facebook, is you can still keep commenting, and we'll still see the comments because it just lives there as a video now, as opposed to just a live stream, which is nice.
And you guys can actually once we actually dual stream. I don't know if anybody knew that, but we dual stream on YouTube as well. Shifting Lanes live, and those videos live as long as we want them to on YouTube. So, if you want to go back and watch us when we were god awful, they're there. If you want to watch this one again, it's there. Wherever you want to find it, we're there. Shifting Lanes has got you covered. We're growing. We have some exciting stuff in store for 23. We want to take you guys along for the ride. That's part of the reason why we started doing these. Like, the debates are fun. The playful back and forth. Like, Greg's a great sport, because he's known me for over 25 years. So.
Also, that soapbox comment was good. I gotta be honest. Chad goes, Greg is short. If he gets off his soapbox, he drops out of frame, which is, it's not, you're not wrong. Oh man, who owns the Volvo wagon? Steve asks. That's me. Hello, I'm the Volvo wagon guy.
If this wasn't indication of where my automotive allegiances lie at the moment, but you can get it to Shifting Lanes store on Teespring.
That's right. Check out Teespring, and then find some really nice Shifting Lanes merch.
Yeah. So I guess we'll close it there. Christian, man, 100% down. When you want us, shoot us a DM. We'll talk.
Yeah. We don't have to be bigger. You don't have to be bigger. We'll come on now. It's fine.
Yeah. We'll bring all 11 viewers with us. Well, technically.
That's right.
Technically 10, since you're one of them.
Yes, that's right.
So. But yeah, guys, I want to thank you again for watching. I've been Chad. That has been Greg. Oh, I almost went 2 for 2. We'll see you next week, guys. Have a good one.